Welcome to the podcast where mental health is at the core of what we focus on. We strive to develop people like you to maximize who you are and what you've been called to do by sharing tools and resources for better brain health. And now here's your host, Juan Garcia.
Welcome back to the podcast where we focus on mental health and peak performance. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, thank you so much for taking out some time to listen and watch this podcast. We've been focusing specifically on the topic of emotional intelligence, which is also known as EQ. We've discussed the importance of this topic due to the magnitude of so many organizations, businesses, and even educational platforms that are pushing this concept and also ideology of why we need emotional intelligence. Why is it that emotional intelligence is directly related to performance, production, and cohesiveness in the workplace, in schools, and I think it even translates into family dynamics and relationships. Why? Because there are so many different areas within the emotional intelligence topic that reflect how we treat people and also how we treat ourselves. And so if you're just joining us, I think it would help if you go back to our previous episodes where we lay down the foundation in the first episode of emotional intelligence. Then we talk about motivation, which is the solid foundation that pretty much holds the four pillars of EQ, which is self-awareness, self-management, and today we're going to talk about that third pillar, which is social awareness. So it's important that you go back and to review a little bit of what we discussed. We discussed the importance of your self-awareness, the importance of knowing how you feel and how it affects how you behave in different settings. We talked last episode about self-management, the ability to make sure that you are taking care of your emotions in a healthy way, how it's coming about in different scenarios in a healthy way. And if it's coming out in an unhealthy way, know how to acknowledge it and know how to make the adjustments necessary. So today, in this episode, we're going to focus on social awareness. And social awareness really, if you want to categorize it, you can put it under the word empathy. And it's important to understand that empathy is not the same as sympathy. For obvious reasons, I mean, it's not just because they're spelled differently, but I have heard people use them interchangeably and they're not the same. As a matter of fact, Dr. Brene Brown, who is a very well-known author and has even done a documentary and in a series, or not a series, but like what they call a presentation, almost like a TED Talk presentation through Netflix. Also did one through TED Talk. But the one that has made her more popular has been the one that is up on Netflix, which is phenomenal. I'd highly recommend it. She talks a lot about being bold. She talks a lot about bravery, courage, and her big word is vulnerability. And she really has a healthy breakdown of what empathy truly means. And she also makes the distinction between sympathy and empathy. And I think it's important because sympathy usually distances us from people. We feel bad. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened. It's a sympathy. Empathy connects us further with people. It kind of brings us in to a more intimate space with people, while sympathy is kind of like a far or a distant reflection, and it shows a little bit of I'm sorry, but it's from a distant place, is not really introducing ourselves into their scenario. And I do have a couple of definitions for you for the word empathy, just to give it more of a breakdown. And the first thing I'll say is Empathy is being in the space or in tune with the feelings, concerns, emotions, and perspectives of other people. Being in tune with the feelings, concerns, emotions, and perspectives of other people. Another definition that I can share with you is empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others from within their frame of reference. So, a temptation when dealing with people as it relates to social awareness is that we tend to bring our experience directly into a space or a scenario where someone is sharing their own experience. For example, someone we whether we meet them for the first time or we've known them, let's say we see them in a supermarket. Oh my goodness, Phyllis, how you doing? I just had a death in the family. Oh, I'm so sorry, Phyllis. Yeah, my uncle, he passed away. He had cancer. I mean, he's not suffering anymore, so it's good. But I really miss him. Oh, I'm so sorry, Phyllis. My aunt, she also died of cancer too, so I totally understand. See, so we express sympathy, right? We share with Phyllis that we're sorry for her loss, and it's probably coming from a really good place because we connect with Phyllis in the fact that we also experienced something similar. But I think the more important point of this is that empathy takes us to another level, meaning we don't feel the need to make a comparison even in a sympathetic reaction. We should not feel the need to say, oh, I know because I also lost in a similar manner. Because at the end of the day, we don't know what people are going through, even if we have a similar experience or point of reference. We can have a point of reference of a loss, death in the family. It could even be a similar scenario, cancer, a car wreck or a car accident, suicide, overdose. It could be a teenager that something happens specifically, and we have a teenager. We say, oh, I understand. When we say I understand, when a person is trying to really express their grief and loss, it totally annihilates their grief process because they're not really asking us to understand. They're just asking us to hear what they're saying and to comprehend. So empathy takes us to a deeper level to put ourselves in their shoes and feel their pain. And if we get more gender specific, some of the things that are tempting to men is to fix it, right? Men naturally have a fix-it mentality. How can I fix it? How can I fix it? Now, they may not ask those specific questions. Maybe they will. But usually, our default as men, because of the way we're wired, we want to fix something. And so we'll say things like, what can I do? What do you need me to do? Because we want to fix it. And then women have this nurturing nature. They want to love, they want to nurture, they want to show their affection towards the situation and the person. And so they'll elicit, wisdom or counseling or advice that was not asked of them. And so I know that sounds negative and that sounds bad, but we need to call it for what it is. A lot of times, a guy wants to come in and fix the situation that they can't fix. And then a woman by nature, and obviously this is a bias, but they're examples so that you can kind of identify and understand what I'm trying to define in terms of empathy for others. A woman would try to come in and say, well, you know what you need to do. Well, you know what you could do. Well, you know what, you should do and consider. And that's not what's being asked. So it's unsolicited advice. It's unsolicited sympathy. And that does not allow us as men or women to enter into a place of empathy with the person. So social awareness is all about not only just being aware, but putting ourselves in that person's place, shoes, feelings, emotions, and as the definition says, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others from within their frame of reference. So even if you have a similar situation that you've gone through, there's always the potential of a different frame of reference or point of reference. What I remember as a point of reference and what it did to me emotionally, psychologically, mentally, or even physically may not be the same response or the same way you experienced it. And so although it may be coming from a good place, but the best thing to do or the healthiest response is to put yourself in that person's shoes to the best of your ability within their frame of reference and just be with them. You know, I love the term ministry of presence because I believe that many times what people need is for us to show up and just be there without giving advice, without saying things like, oh, I know, oh, I understand. Oh, yeah, I lost my mom too when I was a kid, because it comes off very disconnected and very matter of fact. And that turns people off. And so we want to be socially aware in the sense that we want to be with people in their pain without attempting to fix it, without soliciting advice or giving advice or counsel that was not solicited, just being there with people. And you know why we're not good at it? Because it's uncomfortable. We don't like feeling as if we're not capable or we're not competent to help someone. But that's not what's being asked of you. All that's being asked of you is to be there and be empathetic of what's happening. A lot of times we are within a relationship or we're in a scenario where someone is not necessarily understood, or they have behaviors that are different than our ideals, or they think differently than us. They have priorities that are different than ours, expectations that are different than ours. And so we distance ourselves from them. And we're talking about people that we have to interact with, whether it's at work, whether it's, in the family. And so the most important thing we can do is meet those people where they are and have empathy for them as we deal with them in a healthy way. Doesn't mean that we compromise our own beliefs. It doesn't mean that we compromise our own values. It doesn't mean that we have to bend over backwards and be someone that we're not. It just means that we don't necessarily say the things that are not important or say the things that put the focus back on us, that makes us feel better about ourselves because we feel that we're better than them. It just means that we just need to sit in that space and be okay with being vulnerable, be okay with not truly understanding where they're coming from, but making the attempt to be there as a person that is willing to sit with them where they are. That is empathy. That is social awareness. That is what we lack not only in this country, in this culture, society, but in the world. The reason why we can't have a dialogue and disagree politically and disagree with socio-economical, statuses as to why one is one way and another group is not. We disagree with ethnical changes or ethnical, differences, is because we don't want to have empathy. We don't want to understand people for who they are and where they come from. We want to be right. We want to have the last word. And that is the enemy of empathy. That is the enemy of social awareness. So if we're willing to make this world a better place, if we want to see people succeed, because I'll be honest with you, regardless of the person's trajectory and regardless of the person's pursuits and dreams and aspirations, a person's success that I can come in contact with is my success. Let's go. Let's do this. I am happy for you. I want you to be successful. I want you to excel in life. That's the way our attitudes should always be. But what happens is that when someone distances themselves from us, or their aspirations, desires, and dreams are a little different than ours, we say, whatever. Good luck. I hope it all works out. And we're condescending, sarcastic, and all these things. That's not healthy. So let's practice social awareness, being empathetic one for the other, understanding people where they are from within their frame of reference, and it'll make this world, a better place. We'll have more understanding, more empathy, more comprehension. And as I always say, one of the best communication skills that you and I can put into practice is that we should always listen to comprehend and not to reply. Hope this is helpful to you. Make sure you like this video, you comment any comments that you want to share, and you share this video with those family members, friends, and even your foes. Let them know that we should be more socially aware, more empathetic, so that our emotional intelligence would get higher and better, so we can treat each other the way it was meant to be, with respect, honor, and dignity. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning into our podcast. For more information, visit our website at juangarciaenterprises.com. Our host, Juan Garcia, is available for speaking, coaching, and one-on-one counseling. You can email us at info@juangarciaenterprises.com. Until next time, remember, we only have one mind, so mind yours.